simply by saying we apply the pullback to every point of the manifold, the target manifold, and we pull back the value of some covector field on the manifold. Okay? Now, unfortunately, or well, it's just a fact, that you cannot do the same thing for vector fields. For the push forward of vector fields, there is a problem. So that we could extend, I should emphasize here, without further, or without problems, right? So we could go back to that lecture and look. But the push forward of a vector field, of a vector cannot the push forward of a vector field. Now it comes unless the underlying smooth map also assigns to every point in M only one point over here. It doesn't take one point and takes it to 2 points. No, it doesn't do that. To every point here, it assigns 1 point here. Now for the pullback, that's fantastic, because that means if I have a covector field over here, right? I put a covector field omega on this N. What I can do, I can look at the omega at this point here, and I know precisely that I can take this one and I pull it back to an omega here. And although there's also an omega given here, that will never be seen by the pullback, because the pullback will only take the points in the image here and pull them back and fill all of this here with H pullback omega, right? Clear. Now, both the fact that every element is mapped on M and that it's mapped to exactly 1. Now, think about the same situation, M and N. There's a map, H is a smooth map from M to N. But if you now think of the push forward, we have a problem. First of all, not every point over there is hit. If we take the same picture here, so I take every point here, right? Of course, because it's a map, but only some region with the image is hit. So from a vector field that's given here, you will never be able to define a vector field at that point by push forward, because none of the points here is being mapped. It's even worse. It could be that this point here is mapped to this point, and that other point is mapped to the same point. The map is not injected. for the push forward, that's another thing. So you can say, well, maybe I only want the vector field in the image. Well, but even then, if the map is not projective, this vector is pushed here, and the other vectors also pushed there, say it looks like this. So the push forward extended, if you don't look at one point to one point, then it's fine. But if you want to extend this to a vector field, it becomes ill-defined, because you don't know which of the images you should choose as the resulting vector field here. So you see the problems that came up is, first, the map wasn't surjective, you didn't hit everything. And the second problem was, even if it was surjective or you restrict to the image, then if it's not injective, you also have a problem of being well defined. Right? So exactly what the properties of a map is, everything is mapped to exactly one value. So the other way around, you need injectivity and surjectivity to make it work in opposite direction. But of course, injectivity and surjectivity and bijectivity, they will exist in inverse. Of course, it makes no sense. So if the map, so we cannot do this for vector fields unless the underlying smooth map is bijective in both directions smooth. In other words, if the map is reducible, then also the push forward of vector field here will produce well-defined vector fields here. We target our smooth manifold G underlying the Lie algebra. There is for any element G in G, I can construct a diffeomorphism that sends points of the manifold to the manifold. Aha! Because this is a diffeom, I can use the push forward of this map to map vector fields on the group to vector fields on the abstract. What we're now going to consider next is to take our groups of the rotation group, which is a manifold in particular, and we consider vector fields on that okay, so you have this idea of vector spaces for diffeos, because the diffeos will extend to vector fields on the group. So abstract and push forward any vector field. Any vector field X on G to another vector field LG push forward on the vector field. That's not defined yet. We defined the push forward of a map on a vector, but not on a vector field. But I define it on the vector field at the point H in G. I define it to be the push forward of the vector field at the point H, and I think then I want here is the push forward at GH. Right. Okay, so that's just the definition. You see, this is a vector
approach. So let's consider an embedded surface. I'm not particularly good at drawing surfaces, but let me try. Let this be a two-dimensional surface embedded in the three-dimensional Euclidean space. That's important. Just as before, we're going to refer the surface to a coordinate system. The space that surrounds it, called the ambient space, is also referred to a coordinate system, but for today it's actually not important. I'll just mention that the coordinates in the ambient space will still be denoted by Zi, but I do not believe that Zi today will make an appearance. The surface itself will be, because it's two-dimensional, will require two coordinates in order to be mapped. And those coordinates will be called S1 and S2. So just as before, we use the letter Z for just about everything and let the initial signature determine what quantity we're talking about. Now that letter will be S. So the surface is denoted by the letter S, and the two coordinates on the surface are S1 and S2. So you may imagine coordinate lines may look something like this. These are the lines of constant S1, and this could be the lines of constant S2. Collectively, these coordinates will be referred to as S alpha. And we'll use Greek letters as opposed to Latin letters to refer to indices that have values 1 and 2. Latin letters have values 1, 2, and 3. So that's the distinction. So now S alpha. And once again, we'll introduce the position vector. So by introducing the position vector, we're actually taking advantage of the Euclidean nature of the ambient space. Position vector exists in the ambient space. There's one position vector that points to every point in the ambient space. So it's an invariant field with respect to an arbitrary number. It's an invariant field with vector values. We're going to look at the restriction of that vector field to the surface. So we will only consider the position vectors that end up on the surface. So take a moment to visualize that. It's an invariant field defined on the surface. The restriction of the position vector to the surface. Restriction just means we're not going to look at the values of the position vector outside of the surface. Only on the surface. Once again, this is possible because the ambient field is Euclidean. Great. Now what we realize is that this invariant field can now be referred to coordinates. So it can be considered a function of coordinates. So now the position vector R, a moment ago was just an invariant field of an invariant space. Now it's an invariant field that is a function of the two coordinates, S1 and S2. And according to our convention, we suppress the indices of function arguments. And in fact, we will write this as R and S, which means RS1 and RS2. So if we consider the surface of a sphere, S1 and S2 are commonly taken to be theta and phi. On a torus, it's another set of two natural variables. On an arbitrary surface, it's an arbitrarily chosen map. Okay, so following the pattern that we started in the Euclidean space, we can define the covariant basis. It is defined by differentiating the position vector with respect to each of the variables. All right, let's try and draw what that might look like. I actually have yellow chalk here. It's very convenient. So previously I said that these are lines of constant S1. So these would be lines of constant S2. So these are lines along which S1 is changing. So dr ds1 is likely pointing along this line. It's tangent to the surface. So it might look like something like this. This might be S1. And similarly, S2 might look something like this. S2. Okay. In the book, you can find the drawings for the sphere, the ellipse, I think, and maybe a couple other common surfaces. And of course, their length very much depends on just exactly how the surface parameterized with S1 and S2. And what else is important to realize? It's important to realize that these vectors are tangential to these curves as viewed in three-dimensional. So these two vectors are tangential to the surface. I'm just appealing to your geometric intuition at this point. So these two vectors combined determine the tangential plane to the surface. So it is often said that these two vectors are the tangential plane. They're the two tangential vectors, or they span the tangent plane. And it's also important to realize that they don't really lie within the surface, because it may not have been possible for a straight vector to lie within the surface unless it's flat, plane, or maybe a developable surface. We'll talk about that at another time. But generally, they're tangential to the surface and don't lie in the surface. That's always important. Why don't they lie in the surface? Even though it's even impossible because it's curved, but well, it's because the surface is curved. So curvature is beginning to rear its head. So that's the tangent space. And also, I will not draw it, but I will write it. There is a well-defined, almost a well-defined unit normal. Why am I saying almost well-defined? It's because there are two of them, one pointing in this direction and one pointing in the other direction. So let's just choose one of them. It's actually not important at this point that it obeys some kind of right-hand rule. Let's just arbitrarily choose one of the two normals and define it by, denote it by the letter n. And of course, it's a vector quantity. Now, n is a unit vector that's orthogonal to both S1 and S2. We might as well write this property of S1 and S2 and the property of the normal. It's orthogonal to each one. So here is your pair of identities that express it in the algebraic language. And it's also unit length, which can be written this way. So this is more of a characteristic of the normal rather than the tangential vector. So that's the unit normal. Of course, it's very interesting to express the components of the normal explicitly. They would have to be expressed because this vector does not lie in the tangential plane. It may not be expressed with respect to S1 and S2 because it's not in that plane. It's actually the most not in that plane it can be. It's orthogonal to that plane. But we can still express and decompose n with respect to the covariant basis in the ambient space that is borne by this coordinate system. So that's a task for a later date. There is a beautiful expression and it's obviously very useful. But all we need to know about the normal today is that it's orthogonal to the covariant basis and its unit length. Okay, moving on. Once we have the covariant basis, we can form the covariant metric tensor by the same pattern as before. It is denoted by S alpha beta. And is defined as the pairwise dot product.
The more you realize the inseparable identity of self and other. To go back, if you try to find the identity of self and other by subjecting other to self, no go. If on the other hand you find it through giving self, that is control, over to other, trusting that, you may make a mistake. You may make a bad gamble. But in the long run, you're acting on a principle which has the backing of evolution. This is the way biological evolution goes on. Constant delegation of authority. That's why, obviously, the democracy is superior to the monarchy. Mr. Tocqueville said that democracy is always right, but for the wrong reason. Because there is operating in a democracy the principle that Buckminster Fuller calls synergy. Synergy is the intelligence of a highly complex system, the nature of which is always unknown to the individual member. Because that goes back again to this point, that we're always entering a new environment. The We don't ever know fully what the new environment is, because the only environment we know the past. There is always then operating in the development of cellular life on any level a new way of organization, higher than any existing form. And we are not aware of it until after it's happened. If you ever saw, for example, the film Kon-Tiki, this man figured out a few things as to how to make a balsa wood raft to sail from South America to the Pacific Islands. But once he had set this in motion, he discovered that all sorts of unexpected factors cooperated. That when the wood got wet, it expanded, so that the ties bit into it and held it completely secure. He'd never expected that. And he found that as he sailed along, flying fish would simply alight flat on the deck every morning for breakfast. That all kinds of natural factors, it was just, he'd touched a key where he was flowing with the course of nature. Everything cooperated. He'd touched the key. It made the act straight. And he was just picking up, in other words, the practice which had been hundreds and hundreds of years ago and been followed by others who worked it out by their great ecological awareness. So we do come out of this way of thinking to something which has, I would say, the most enormously creative and revolutionary social consequences. That it has become not virtuous, not self-sacrificing, not anything like that. It has become the hardest practical policy to let go control of others. Give up trying to dominate. Also, in a parallel way, it has become at this time in our history very much hard practical politics. To learn how to enjoy ourselves. You can go to the Protestant people with their Protestant ethic who were against Islam. Now say to them with great clearness, it is your solemn duty to learn how to enjoy it. Why? Because in an age of leisure, people have really got to know how to enjoy themselves. Because if they don't, they'll smash the whole future of the human race. So a utopia has become not some sort of a dream, but an urgent necessity. We can't do without it. Because if we try to do without it, what's going to happen is that we are going to terminate our race in a mutual massacre of scapegoats. And so the present paranoia in the United States that is going on, where everybody is thinking up a new scapegoat, how great it would be to demolish them, or get them out of power. All this kind of bickering and right and left politics has become irrelevant. Because we now have the opportunity of trusting our own intelligence, our own technology. To take the risk of doing what we want, which will work to the extent that we realize that what I want, basically, what I really want is what you want. and I don't know what you want. Surprising. But that's the kinship between I and thou. So when I ask, I go right down to the question, which we started with. What do I want? The answer is, I don't know. When Bodhidharma was asked, who are you? Which is another form of the same question. He said, I don't know. Planting flowers to which the butterflies come. Bodhidharma says, I know not. When you don't know what you want, you will reach the state of desirelessness. When you really know, you see, there's a beginning stage of not knowing, and there's an ending stage. In the beginning stage, you don't know what you want because you haven't thought about it. You've only thought superficially. Then when somebody forces you to think about it and go through it and say, yeah, I think I like this, I think I like that, I think I like the other, there's the middle stage. Then you get beyond that. Say, is that what I really want? In the end you say, no, I don't think that's it. I might be satisfied with it for a while, and I wouldn't turn my nose up at it. But it's not really what I want. Why don't you really know what you want? Two reasons that you don't really know what you want. Number one, you have it. Number two, you don't know yourself, because you never can. The Godhead is never an object of its own knowledge. Just as a knife doesn't cut itself, fire doesn't burn itself, light doesn't illumine itself. It's always an endless mystery to itself. I don't know. And this I don't know, uttered in the infinite interior of the spirit,